Good morning and welcome, everyone. I'm going to mute everyone on Zoom. So just a reminder, if you have a speaking part, unmute yourself, and welcome to service this morning.
Welcome, everyone. We will begin our service now with music from Scott. Everyone on Zoom will be muted. Those in our sanctuary listening to our in-gathering music. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our community worship with the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Charlottesville on this first Sunday in November. I hope everyone enjoyed the extra hour of sleep with the time change. I am Dawn Dirks, and I am happy to be serving as your worship weaver today from Oregon. Once again, we find ourselves in many sanctuaries, some in your homes near and far, and some in our physical sanctuary at Rugby Road. For centuries before us, the land that our congregation sits upon has been the dwelling place of the Monacan people. Later, this land was the location of plantations worked on by enslaved African Americans. We honor all those who dwelt here before and all those whose lives led to this moment of our gathering as a community of memory and hope. Kay Frazier, our congregation's treasurer and member of the Board of Trustees, is here to welcome you.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. I welcome those on Zoom. As myself, I'm Zooming from Nelson County, and I welcome those in the sanctuary. I serve as your treasurer and on the Board of Trustees, and it's such an honor. I often look to our mission and our covenant because it grounds me in our commitment to our congregation, to each other, and to the wider world. The mission and our covenant speak to our commitments to spiritual growth, social justice, caring for one another, and sharing our gifts. And as we move into the holiday months, and as we have more and more opportunities to be physically together, I am most moved by our commitment of sharing our gifts. It is through our gifts to each other and to the community that our commitments are filled and realized. Perhaps your gift is a gift of time. There are so many ways to give a gift of your times and talents. Just to name a few, Posham, we will be housing the men in Summit House all through the month of November. Become more involved in impact. Volunteer for one of the many committees and work groups. Join in a small group ministry, or participate in an educational opportunity. Maybe you would like to consider serving in a leadership position. If so, just contact the nominating committee, and I'm sure they would love to talk with you. Perhaps your gift is in the form of donations and money. Thank you all for honoring your pledges of this year. Giving the gift of money to our congregation is where we can most help and care for each other. Perhaps you would like to contribute to the Thanksgiving baskets. We're partnering with Ebenezer Baptist Church and collecting food for the holidays. Or support the African American Pastors Council in collecting and funding the need for cleaning supplies and personal care items. And today you will hear how you can support our refugees welcome effort. Perhaps our greatest gift, though, is caring for each other, celebrating together in times of joy, and holding those close who are experiencing grief and sorrow. I thank each of you today for being here in our presence, because your very presence is a gift to us all. Welcome.
Thank you, Kay. Joining me in worship today, we have Reverend Linda and Reverend Leah, Elizabeth Bredon, and Greg Townsend. We are so grateful to Sean Scally and Margaret Migas for their tech support today, and to Ellie Ransom for her video artistry. I call us to worship now with these words from Karen G. Johnston. As we gathered this morning, let us be a people of not forgetting. Let us practice holding collective memories that might otherwise slip into that enormous void that sucks at and corrodes any future we hold dear. Let us practice resilience with reckoning. Let us marry memory and promise. Let us dance in the tension we find there. Let us rest in the integrity we cultivate there. Let us be partners with the possibility that emerges there. It is good we gather. Come, let us sing together.
I'm taking my mask off today because our reopening task force has informed me that when I am this far away from you, I can leave my mask off today. Friends, as we begin this service, we're going to light a chalice as we do each and every Sunday morning. This morning, we do so with a special meaning. A longtime member of this congregation, Bob Gross, died yesterday. He had a serious injury from a fall a week ago, and for the past several days, those who loved him were mourning even before his final breath. Bob loved this congregation, and he loved this Unitarian Universalist faith, and he dedicated much of his life working for racial justice. And so I've invited Reverend Leah to light our chalice in honor today of Bob's life and in honor of his commitment to our faith, which now is up to us to carry forward. And I lead us in these words. We gather this hour as people of faith with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning in celebration of the life we share together. We light this chalice to celebrate Unitarian Universalism. This is a church of open minds. This is a church of helping hands. And this is a church of loving hearts. So this Rugby Road Sanctuary is burning now. And if you have a chalice in your home, please light it at this time.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
When I think of all the ways Unitarian Universalism has made a difference in the world, in the lives of people, is this coming through the mic? No, I have to keep my mask on because people are going to be up here with me. Is it coming through the speakers? Now it's coming through the speakers. When I think of all the ways that Unitarian Universalism has made a difference in the world, in the lives of people, I always come back to the power of how and what we teach our children and our youth and our adults growing into their faith. This is religious education. This is faith development. And this is what has been the heart and soul of our faith for more than a century. In fact, congregations are formed and are kept vital by the desire of parents to have a community to help their children grow in spirit and learning to love themselves and learning to love the questions and learning to love finding answers that center on compassion and justice and human capacity. Too often, however, congregations can forget how vitally important faith development is to the health of a congregation. When we forget, when we put to the side the incredible power of growing the minds and souls of children, youth, families, and elders, when we forget, we weaken our community. We squander the liberating message that our Unitarian Universalist faith has to offer the world. This congregation has been blessed throughout its 8 decades to have kept alive and vital its ministry of religious education, faith development. Year after year, children have found acceptance here with fun and arts, and adults open to their question. Youth have had the chance to shape their ideas and beliefs, to form lasting friendships, to understand their bodies and souls, and to find ways to serve those in need. And for all these years, caring adults have volunteered to nurture and support the learning ministry. And talented educators have taken on the role to direct the programs for learning our family ministry for faith development. And so today, we are pleased to announce that we have created a plaque which names the leaders who over the years have led this congregation's religious education and faith development ministries. Elizabeth Bredon, will you say a few words?
Thank you. You may not have realized as you walk in the church that there is a rogues gallery of ministers that goes up the stairs. And then if you turn the corner and go up the stairs further, there's a gallery of the interim ministers that goes further up. We put up Alex's picture as the assistant minister. And so then we realized, well, we need Leah's picture as an assistant minister as well. And that's when, luckily, we have the ministers we do who said, you need to list the faith development directors through time. And it helps to establish the history of our church because you can actually see it hung and recall the history. So we created this plaque thanks to our history committee of all of the people who have led our religious education over the years. Waiting for the slide. The first religious education committee, which is how we began it from 1947 to 52, was led by Virgil Gore. Curly Lyle was then named as superintendent in 1952 and Betty Rausch in 1955. We then seem to have invented the religious education director in 1956 with Curly. And then in 1958, Martha Cope and Marion Edgerton shared that position. We seem to return to superintendent with Virginia James from 1959 to 1963. Then in 1964, there was an entire committee that ruled the religious education world from 1964 to 74. So that's quite a long time. But in 1974, Norma Bredon became the director of religious education, followed by Carolyn Sin in 1977. In 1982, many of us who've been here a while remember Carol Ogburn. And then in 1985, Diane Ober. 1989, our own Sally Taylor, who couldn't be with us today. And in 1992, as but a child, Leah Darlin Jones was invited to be the director of religious education. She became the minister of religious education in 2020.
Thank you, Reverend Linda and Elizabeth. It has been my honor and privilege to be your director of religious education since 1992, and now your minister of faith development. I have loved keeping the joy and excitement of our UU faith unfolding in the minds and hearts and souls of our many children, youth, families, and elders. I know, and I have always known, that I stand on the shoulders of giants, the wonderful and dedicated faith leaders who came before me. I am so happy that we, as a congregation, are honoring them today.
And now we will dedicate this plaque, which in the coming days will end up on the wall of fame, the stairwell of fame. And we dedicate with these words: We remember all the caring leaders who sustained and nurtured the congregation by teaching and growing and creating memories among all the ages in our community. May we also be dedicated never to forget and always to live up to the legacy which these leaders have left for us to carry forward. For all that is our life, through every stage, through joy and sorrow, birth and growth, beginnings and endings, for all that is our life, we give thanks. And as we dedicate this plaque, may these names be blessed. Amen.
For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad. For needs which others serve, for services we give, for work and its rewards, for hours of rest and love, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life, for sorrow we must bear, for failures, pain, and loss, for each new thing we learn, for fearful hours that pass, we come with praise and thanks.
Every Sunday, as a central part of our worship, we invite one another to give financial gifts to support the ongoing ministries of this congregation. And we also feature important social action clauses inviting you to give special gifts for the needs of our wider community. We have a new project just beginning at UUCville, one that all of you are invited to participate in, welcoming a refugee family. To learn more, here is a video.
Hi, I'm Kathy Lauder, one of the team leaders for the Refugee Welcome Project. I hope you've had an opportunity to read about the project on the church's website or in the Friday email. We will be posting updates regularly as more information becomes available. Today we're asking for your financial support for our refugee family. Our goal is $5,000. We're asked to provide $3,000 to supplement IRC and government funding to help them with housing costs during their first few months in Charlottesville until they can obtain a job. Most of the remaining funds will be used to set up their apartment, including purchasing staples and a few days' supply of groceries. We hope to receive many donated items in excellent condition. Certain items, such as mattresses and toiletries, must be new. We will not know the ages of our family members until a few days before they arrive, so may need to purchase some age-appropriate essential items. Any remaining funds will be used for needs identified by our trained mentors after the family has arrived. You can go to the church's website, click on Refugee Welcome to find the link to make donations and a list of needed items. This list will be updated regularly and surplus items donated to the yard sale. As the family needs support, UU Charlottesville will be there to lend it. We're grateful for this opportunity for our congregation to express the love and welcome that so many hearts have yearned to offer. Thank you for your support.
Today, you can offer a gift to support the family our congregation will be sponsoring. Please mail checks or give online or through the website. Those of you in the sanctuary today can leave a cash or a check in the basket at the front or go online to give. And of course, we appreciate your offerings to support the ongoing ministries of the church. Some of you have pledged and have automatic deductions made each week. We honor that. For those of you who like to give weekly online, this is your opportunity to do so. For those of you in the church sanctuary, you can come forward to leave an offering in the basket at the front. There are so many ways that we give and receive gifts in our community. Our board and staff are dedicated to stewarding all of our gifts well with mission and vision.
Yeah. I guess I'm going to just...
Together, we build the future of our congregation and our larger community. I am thankful we are all on this journey together. I am thankful for our generous hearts. And now let us dedicate all of the many gifts together by saying, we accept your gifts with gratitude. May we use them wisely for the highest good.
And from this we live, from you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live.
Thank you, Scott DeVoe. It's always so wonderful to have your music with us. It is truly in the giving and the receiving in a caring community that we share our lives and give them meaning. I'm wondering why there is an echo in here, Sean. Is somebody's microphone still on in here? Okay, I'll try to speak slowly for all of you. I don't know what we sound like on Zoom, but in here it sounds like I'm in a echo chamber. Echo, echo. This has been a difficult week for many of us, starting with the election, to the climate conference, to the Unite the Right trial, and now right here with the sorrow and loss in our own congregation. I am so grateful to be with a community of compassion. And I am so glad that we had the chance to lift up the names of your religious educators from your history. When I arrived here just 20 months ago or so, in the summer of 2020, I was proudly shown by Elizabeth Bredon the wall of ministers' photos in the stairway. It's lovely to remember those who guided your congregation over the years and how humbling it is for me to be offered the honor to be included. But my first thought when I saw all these is, well, so where are the religious educators remembered and honored? Where are their names or faces? After all, I know for a fact what brought me and many, many others to Unitarian Universalism is in fact the need to find religious community when we start to raise our children. And what kept me and thousands of others, I'm sure, has been the love of learning, the chance as an adult to keep deepening my faith and to grow in knowledge and in spirit. So now I am so glad that a plaque has been created to put their names in front of all of us to see. Thank you, Elizabeth Bredon, for doing that. And we have found a lot of photos, not yet all of those folks, but most of the people who were your past religious education leaders. And I want to thank Sally Taylor, Caroline Hines, Wayne Arneson, and others for doing the hard work of digging in the archives to find those photos. We're looking forward to having ways to either display the photos in person in the church or maybe on our website. And do you know, I have a connection with one of your very early directors of religious education, Norma Bredon, who had a different name when she was here. Norma, it's a Velimirovich. When I knew her, she was Norma Bredon. She was here in the 1970s, and she went on to become an ordained minister of religious education and a leader in several really large congregations around the Unitarian Universalist world. And she made a giant contribution to our profession. When I was applying to seminary, I met Norma. She was the chair of the committee that had created a then experimental modified residency program at the Unitarian Universalist Seminary in Chicago, Meadville Lombard. She interviewed me. It was up to her to decide if I could get her approval to be admitted. Well, luckily that went well. And in the next few years, I got to know her better and admire her immensely. Then about a decade later, when I accepted my second call to a UU congregation, I landed where Norma had been right after she left you, the Unitarian Universalist Church of Arlington. And I can tell you that even though she had preceded me there by about 20 years, people still spoke of what Norma had done for their religious education programs there. And now, in 2020 and 2021, I find myself with the congregation that helped her begin her career almost 50 years ago. This month, the Soul Matters theme we're considering is holding history. Holding history, that can be a really difficult topic because sometimes the truth of our history is not really easy to accept, to revisit. Sometimes our histories are erased. Sometimes they are prettified, so we don't have to acknowledge past difficulties. In our recent disappointing governor's campaign, we heard how the award-winning Toni Morrison book, Beloved, was challenged by people who were afraid of the stories it told. They wanted to avoid the history and not let their high school seniors know about the true horror and terror of what slavery was like. Holding history, I think, means being willing to just look at it for real. Even when the pain hits close to home. As I learned about Unitarian Universalism over the years, I began to understand that for all of our ideals and wonderful history, we suffered from some dark places in our history, some of which continue to haunt us because it has been so painful to bring into the open and for us to receive and hold. We have a history of sexual misconduct in our ministry. We're not any different from any of the other denominations or the Catholic Church there. We have many examples of dysfunctional conflict within our congregations. We have patterns of racism, sexism, ableism, homophobia, and ageism throughout our denomination, reflecting our culture. And in the world of religious education as a profession, I learned that many congregations wanted the children kept out of sight, even when they were a part of why people were there. They maybe would let the children come into the sanctuary when it was cute and when it was crowd pleasing. The energy of youth and families was also relegated to the sidelines. Now, for religious professionals who led RE programs, too often many have suffered marginalization and even abuse. And for many years, it wasn't really spoken of because it was part of the society of sexism and ageism. And too many senior ministers throughout our history have dismissed the expertise of the religious educators. Too many boards have felt it was okay to underpay them. And too many congregations have underestimated the gifts and talents of a great educator. So that pain hit close to me, close to home. But it's the pain in our history. And it talks about how so many people so easily don't examine truly what's been going on. And they want to misunderstand or undervalue what is really one of the incredible treasures that our faith has to offer people, the free search for truth and meaning. And what our UU faith and the curriculums offer children and families is so amazing and unique. If we shouted it out and spent a lot of time and money letting the world know about it, people would be beating our doors down. My heart breaks for all the dedicated volunteers and professional educators whose worth and dignity have not been honored. I wonder how many families left us because they picked up on that message. Now, there have been many wonderful, loving, and visionary accomplishments of our congregations. I am not saying that there haven't. I mean, after all, I fell in love with us, the Unitarian Universalists, and I've committed my life to it. But there are too many stories to show how we have, in fact, historically followed the patterns of our culture. And I've made it my mission in my career to not just get mad and grouse and complain behind closed doors. I've made it my mission to name the shadows and to encourage us to shine light on the places we've fallen short and the places we could do more. Our history in the past 100 years includes difficulties honoring and centering people of color, women and children, transgendered folks, poor folks, folks with physical, cognitive, and mental disabilities. Like our society, we have suffered from not understanding or learning those parts of our history. Even though our ideals and principles are out front, usually of the rest of society, affirming the worth and dignity of every individual, too often our actions are falling behind our ideals. And the best parts of our history have been when we begin to awaken to the truths and not be afraid of them, but begin to change the future. So yes, I really do believe it's important to recognize the painful part of our history, to see them, and then not to dwell in it, but then to decide how to be different going forward. I've discovered it's important for me in my own career to keep life and hope alive for my well-being. And I think it's important for all of us when we have disappointments or discouragements and we see the patterns that have been repeated for hundreds of years, to not despair, but to face up to it and then learn that we can do something different. We don't want to be held hostage by guilt or anger or hold grudges. We have within us, especially among us when we support each other, we have the ability to release the lock on our souls, to feel the pain, and then to say we can be something different. We can do more. We can awaken a wisdom that now is the time to get that burden of hurt or injustice off our shoulders so that we can then move forward and live and thrive. There's an old Zen story that a senior monk and a junior monk once upon a time were traveling together. At one point, they came to a river with a strong current. As the monks were preparing to cross the river, they saw a young and beautiful woman who was trying to get across, but she couldn't manage the current. And she asked, could they help her cross to the other side? The two monks looked at each other because they had taken vows never to touch a woman. But without a word, the older monk picked up the woman, carried her across the river, and placed her gently on the other side, bid her farewell, and carried on with the journey. The younger monk couldn't believe what had just happened. After rejoining his companion, he was speechless, and an hour passed without a word between them. Then 2 more hours passed, and then finally, on the 3rd hour, the monk could no longer contain himself anymore, the younger monk, and he blurted out, he said, "You broke our vow not to touch a woman. How could you carry that woman on your shoulders?" And the older monk looked at him and said, "Brother, I set her down on the other side of the river hours ago. Why are you still carrying her?" So this simple Zen story has a beautiful message about doing the best we can in each moment and then moving on to the next moment. How often do we carry around those past hurts, holding on to resentments or trying to deny that we have them still, when the only person we really hurt by doing that is ourselves? We all go through times in life when people say things to us that's hurtful. Society has done evils to people. We can either choose to ruminate over the past and feel hopeless, powerless, angry, resentful, but ultimately that will weigh us down and sap our energy. Instead, I think it's more life-giving to choose to let go of what doesn't serve us anymore, not to deny it, but to say that was bad, and now we're going to concentrate on what we can do together. Brian Stevenson once said, "Injustice exists when hopelessness persists." Remember that. Injustice exists when hopelessness persists. This is such an important thing for me to learn whenever I get tired and discouraged and think, oh, it's just bad. To acknowledge and to feel, not to dismiss or prettify the wrongs, but to say they really are bad. That really happened. How terrible. But then to get over my own personal sense of despair or powerlessness or hopelessness so that I can be a part of looking at the problems and helping things move forward. And I discovered that, well, I can get others to agree with me or maybe even do apologies. I shouldn't be held hostage waiting for how others respond. I can only decide to do what I can say. I can say how I feel, how I am sorry. I can tell the truth. And I don't want to make people feel guilty, but I want to make people have hope. And I want to invite people to join in writing a new chapter in our history, one that is closer to what our ideals inspire. Now, I know that in this congregation, many of you have been holding some grudges or hurts. You've had disagreements over who the minister should be or how you should spend your money or how to address racism. And I know that for some of you, the disagreements got personal, and people on all sides of each argument said mean things about each other or rolled their eyes about each other. And I'm so sorry for that. I am so sorry that a Unitarian Universalist congregation caused pain. And if I could, I would take it away from you. I would wash you of all that hurt and pain. I know it happened, and I am so, so deeply sorry that walking into a Unitarian Universalist community caused you pain when it actually should be offering life-affirming hope. But you know, even though I know a lot of people want there to be a healing, a reconciliation with this community, I am not sure how that can happen unless each of you is willing to play your own part in that. I want you to find the way that will free you from that hurt or pain if you're feeling it. You could talk to the person who wounded you. You could ask, make a simple ask of what you need from whom you need it. You could ask for help. Or, and here's a radical idea, don't deny that it happened. Don't bury it, but let it go. Put it down. Put it down on the bank of that stream. It's a heavy burden. I'm inviting you to put it down so that you can travel forward later, so that we as a faith can travel forward. Because if you wait forever for the perfect apology or the perfect reconciliation, you may be burdened for the rest of your life. This congregation instead needs each of you to help us with the journey forward. What would it mean for you to let the hurt down? What would it mean for you to cross the stream and leave the hurt behind? I'm not saying forget it, but just leave it. I would hope it would mean that you could then look forward to how to keep this congregation, this faith, alive and well for so many people who need it, who need you. James Baldwin said, to accept one's past, one's history, is not the same thing as drowning in it. James Baldwin said, to accept one's past, one's true history, is not the same thing as drowning in it. He writes, it is learning how to use it. An invented past, he says, can never be used. Invented past. It cracks and it crumbles under the pressures of life, like clay in a season of drought. And so if an invented past can't be used, perhaps a clear-eyed understanding of the past can be the impetus for what is needed now from each of you. We can do this, especially if we can stop the self-indulgence of worrying, caring, holding it, and instead say, wow, I'm needed. I'm going to put it down. We need courage to look at our history, the pain and the joy, all of it. And we need courage to hold it as we wait for the understanding of what it's telling us. And I believe we also need the courage to take from it what we need and to then be freed, be lighter, be more hopeful, and move forward. Because we are needed. We are needed for the present and for the future. Beloveds, wake now. Awaken to our history, and awaken to our future. Amen. So be it.
Wake now, my senses, and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being in awe. Keep with the web of creation your vow. Giving, receiving as love shows us how. Wake now, compassion, give heed to the cry. Voices of suffering fill the wide sky. Take as your neighbor, both stranger and friend, praying and striving their hardship to end.
So are you still with me? You were very quiet, and I want to apologize for just talking and talking and talking. So the time has come in our service to extinguish the chalice. And I'll ask Reverend Leah to extinguish this chalice flame that was lit today for Bob Gross, but also for his values, his ideals. Remember, each of us receives this flame from all those in our past who have cared and who have loved and who have worked and who have struggled and who have moved on for themselves. And we receive this flame now and we hold it in our hearts and we keep it precious and we make sure that we carry it on to those who come after us, because that light of truth and love is needed by the world. Amen. And blessed be.